Hi, it's who is this working? Can I be heard? Hello, my name is Ina Fermin, and I'm gonna give a lecture on AP Basics for first speakers. I prepared a PowerPoint. It's kind of cute. It has like a really cute like monster theme because I have a lot of time. I think it's easier to follow my lecture if you open the PowerPoint as well. I think that they linked the PowerPoint in the description box or something. Just check it out because it's a lot easier to follow my PowerPoint if you I follow my speech if you follow my PowerPoint. So um First things first, AP Basics for speakers. So I really, really love speaking first. And I can't wait for Asian season because speaking for Asian season is like especially what I love. So I love being a PM during Asian season. But I know that a lot of people don't feel the same way. So I know that for a lot of people, not just beginners, that they think that speaking first is either uh scary or boring. So scary because sometimes people think that they might under time when they speak, like maybe they don't know much about the motion, or just because you speak first you don't have a lot to build on. So you find the position of being PM or LO quite scary, and for some people they find the position quite boring, like you're PM, you don't get to respond to anyone, or you just give your speech, you sit down, and then you're done. Um, I hope that through this lecture, I'll be able to help break some of those misconceptions because I truly like really, really, really love speaking first. So, how is this lecture gonna go? We're gonna do four things in this lecture. So, the first thing we're gonna do is we're gonna talk about the structure of a PM and an LO speech. So, what is a PM and an LO supposed to do, or what are they supposed to do, and what are the structure of their speeches? The second thing we're gonna do is we're gonna talk about how to best utilize prep time. And the third thing, we're going to talk about POIs and why POIs are your friend. And lastly, if there's time left, we're going to go through an exercise together. Okay. So, first thing, let's talk about the structure. As a first speaker, you really want to be clear and concise. I feel like that is really what the first speaker is supposed to embody. Like that's what their speech is supposed to be. But having good structure is what really, really helps you be clear and concise. The structure that I'm sharing now is the structure that I personally use, like when I speak first in an Asians team. And this is something that I've developed. Like I've had it like ever since I started Asians debating, and then I've just like developed it throughout the course of like my career. Every tournament that I've been to, I just kind of add that I suggest is good for first speakers. Don't be afraid to add or subtract your own things based on your own tournament experience, because that's how you get a very like like a speech that really is catered to you as a first speaker. So first things first, let's start with PM for policy debates. How I structured this is we're gonna go through PM, then LO, and then for each PM or LO speech, there's a different structure for policy debates and for principal debates. First for policy debates, um, it just starts with the frame, the model, standards, then argument one, two, and three. This is like slide 5 of the PowerPoint if you guys want to check it out. And then I'll be discussing what each thing is. So, first, let's start with the frame. Um, okay. So, the frame is really important because the first thing that you do as a first speaker is you have to present the problem. And you can't just go like, hello, X thing is a problem. Hello, global warming is a problem. Or hello, gender inequality is a problem. You have to show what is it exactly that is the problem, and you have to convince us as the audience, the judges, why is that something that is a problem. So you are able to do that through framing. And I think that you can break down framing through two like you do two things when you frame as a first speaker. So the first thing that you do is you build the context. So this is what like people refer to as painting a picture. And like I know it can get super frustrating because like maybe a judge will like in your personal comments or whatever come up to you and be like, "Oh, I needed you to paint me a picture," or they weren't sure what the picture being painted was. And you're just like, "How do you paint a picture? Like what does that mean? That is so vague." So for me, I think that painting a picture, building the context, I think that you can just answer these three questions, and more or less you're going to have a comprehensive picture that is painted. So firstly, it is when and where does the problem happen? Second, who is affected by the problem? Third, what are the root causes of the problem? So um these are just, and when you answer these questions, like you don't have to answer it like in a checklist manner, like, hello, this is a problem, it happens in this place, it affects women, and the root cause is religion. So like you don't have to answer it like that. Like, you know, you can always be super creative with the way that you present this problem. Of course that is like suggested, but just keep these basic questions in mind, and I think that that is a good way to make sure that the picture that you are painting, quote unquote, is something that is comprehensive. The second part of framing is um, you have to build the urgency. So this is something that is super important, and I think it's something that is sometimes missed by first speakers. Building the urgency. So the thing with this is it's a very little thing at the start of a first speaker speech, but it does a lot for you and your team, because everything else that you say after that, your arguments or even what your partners build later in their speeches, if you prove that like your problem is something that is very urgent, it makes framing having matter regarding the motion. You can use that in your frame. uh Either you use it in your context, either you use it in urgency. So what happens is it really grounds what you're saying in the real world. So it makes it sound more realistic, whatever problem it is that you're trying to prove. So for example, in 2011 the USA did X thing, or 1 in 4 women in the world are affected by Y problem. So like having just those little tidbits of matter, like, you know, it doesn't have to be something so like, whoa, I never knew that. Just um like things that point to facts about the real world make framing a lot more convincing, compelling. The next thing after the frame is building a model. So like usually you have like a frame and you're like, given all of that, we propose XYZ things. So building a model is very important, because a good model, you know, like some things that you have in your model, some prongs, like some certain policies that you have in your model, it's going to keep like opposition from making some entire arguments that can take down your team. On the other hand, sometimes if you build like a bad model, opposite like the op can make entire arguments based on your model. So um I know that sometimes a lot of speakers just go through the model really quickly, and they don't spend a lot of time in prep or in their speech really talking about the model, but it's actually so much more for worse. So the thing though with building a model is like it's pretty tricky because you are unsure, like, am I building too much in my model? Is this model useless? Is it too soft of a model? Is it too hard of a model? So I think that answering these questions in slide 7 of the PowerPoint, I think that it really helps with um like just like making sure that these fears of if you have a useless or a too hard, too soft model, it really helps with that. So the first thing, of course, is what does this policy look like? That question means that you answer that question by giving out the concrete things that you're going to do. So I put emphasis on concrete things because instead of like, for example, an example I think is a good way to explain this. Instead of saying our model is number one, we're going to make sure everyone is informed, and then you move on to the next part of your model. So making sure everyone is informed isn't really a concrete thing. Like, people, so people will be misinformed. So it's important to do concrete things. So for example, instead of saying we're going to make sure like town hall debates, coverage in the newspaper and in the news media, all of those outlets, we're gonna have like seminars, for example, that people have to go to. So it really pays to be more concrete and specific with the things that you say in your model. But you kind of have to like walk a fine line here because sometimes in models you can be way too specific such that the point that it's like already useless, your point is already. I think that the way to do this is number one, like probably just don't mention like super minute details. Like we're gonna have what did I say earlier? Oh, we're gonna have town hall debates. You don't have to say like the town hall debates will be held every Sunday. Like, there will be specific details, right? Um, but so you have to walk the fine line between being specific but not being too specific. Unfortunately, there isn't like a rule that you can just, okay, this is the rule that I follow. That's when I'm being too specific. Like, there's no such thing as that. You kind of have to play it by ear and determine what is it that is necessary to get your point across. But there are other things that can help you like determine if you're too specific or not specific enough. So the next question is what are parallels to status quo? So finding parallels is a good way of showing for committing this crime or for committing this crime that is accepted by people. But you're inconsistent by funding one thing and funding the other thing as well. Or you don't have enough funds to do one thing and the other thing. So a lot of times if your model is like way too good to be true, then you're going to be called out for it. And it's oftentimes, even if it seems good at the beginning, it's not very good for you guys. So every model comes with some sort of trade-off, and you're going to have to point that out and explain why that trade-off is okay or something. Uh but the model in general, like at the end of it, how hard your model upon yourselves in the debate, because in the end is how you justify having a certain specific thing in your model or not having a certain specific thing. That's why after the model, I move on to the standards of the debate. And wait, I'm gonna just drink some water. So after the model, we move on to the standards of the debate. And the classic explanation of this, like, what are standards? The classic explanation of this is it is explaining to the judge how they should judge the debate. So that's the explanation that I got like the first time I started first speaking. Um, justice to how important setting up the standards of the debate really is for a first speaker. Uh, this is like a really powerful part of a PM speech. Through the standards, you basically outline how the entire debate should go. And if you do it right, a lot of times you can prevent op from burden pushing you, from strong manning you. So like already at that part of your speech, this little thing can do so much for you and your team. Um so these are the questions that I answer when proving these standards. So what should each side prove to win the debate? What are we supposed to defend? What are they supposed to defend? And again, what are the trade offs? Why can we mitigate the harms, or why is the trade off justified? Um, the thing to note here is when you do the whole standards thing, you're not just doing it for your side. You should also do it for your opposition side. And that way, they can't burden push you to prove something that is out of the debate or claim that you are proving something out of the debate. So, like, again, this is a very powerful part of the first speaker speech. And then moving on to the arguments. So there's gonna be a whole lecture